He wore a badge. He claimed to protect her. But what he did under the flickering lamp was anything but safe. Mia Caldwell slides her laptop in her backpack and stacks her last textbooks on the library's polished table. The digital clock on her phone reads 2:17 a.m. Its glow the only bright thing in the silent reading room. She rubs her weary eyes, straightens her shoulders, and grabs her tote before leaving behind the hush of empty shelves. Take a second to subscribe. It really helps. Thanks. Now back to the story. Each step down the corridor echoes against high ceilings. The automatic doors sigh open, and a chill breeze brushes her skin. She tightens her coat around her as she crosses the courtyard toward Lot C, where her aging sedan waits under a single flickering lamp. Shadows pool beneath the sparse trees, and distant traffic hums beyond the campus fence. She glances over her shoulder, half expecting to see another late-night student. There's no one. Her pulse quickens. Her backpack feels heavier. As she approaches the first row of cars, gravel crunches underfoot. The lamppost's light sputters, then steadies, bathing her path in a pale circle. Mia reaches into her pocket for her phone, thumb hovering over its flashlight, just in case. A faint thud makes her freeze. She stops, scanning the darkness between vehicles. Another soft echo, as if something or someone shifted. Anxiety twists in her stomach. She considers turning back, but the exit gate is too far. She exhales, reminding herself she's done this walk dozens of times. She's careful, aware of her surroundings, but tonight feels different. Halfway to her car, she notices a figure leaning against a lamppost. He's in a security uniform, badge glinting in the weak light, but something about his posture feels off. His flashlight lies at his feet. Mia's los erpache. He straightens, eyes locking onto her. Need a ride to your car? He calls, voice low and oddly detached. She forces a polite smile. No, thank you. I'm Fina. He steps forward, too close. The air stiffens between them. Mia's fingers tighten around her keys. She can almost taste the metallic tang of adrenaline. She forces herself to keep walking, heart pounding as she slips past him and reaches the driver's door. With a swift move, she presses the lock button and slides inside, door closing with a click that echoes louder than she'd like. She settles into the seat, hands trembling. For a moment, she sits still and listens. Only the whisper of her breath and the distant hum of streetlights. Outside, the security guard stands alone, watching. Mia esse chist titans. The night is far from over. Paul Sheehan stands beneath the flickering lamp, arms crossed, as Mia's sedan's taillights fade into the darkness. His breath puffs in the cold air, and he glances around the empty lot, half expecting trouble. Vandalism, a smashed window, someone hiding beneath a car. Instead, he finds only the echo of his own heartbeat. He taps his flashlight's head, sending a narrow beam over the rows of idle vehicles. Every reflected surface throws back a shard of light that cuts through the night. Sheehan's uniform feels heavy on his shoulders, as if the fabric itself warns him to stay alert. He's been on this beat too many hours, chasing ghosts in empty corridors. The campus is quiet, too quiet. A sudden rustle among the shrubs makes him pivot. The beam lands on a stray plastic bag, tumbling across the pavement. He exhales and pockets the flashlight, stepping toward the perimeter fence. Security protocol says he should radio in when he spots anything unusual, but he hesitates. His radio crackles with the dorm guard's bored voice on the other end. Nothing pressing to report. Something nags at him. A memory of a late shift last spring, a student assaulted near the commuter parking. He tells himself he's only investigating, gathering facts, keeping students safe. He leans against his patrol car, watching the main walkways that stretch into shadow, waiting for the silhouettes of passing cars. A distant engine hum suggests someone approaching. When a lone figure rounds the corner, moving quickly, Sheehan's gut tightens. It's the same woman from before, her hair caught in the lamplight, backpack swinging low. His pulse quickens as he straightens and steps out, radio clipped neatly to his belt. His training reminds him to stay professional, but the memory of her terrified expression sharpens his focus. He follows at a careful distance, boots crunching gravel. Each time she glances back, panic flickers in her eyes. Sheehan flicks his light off and on, creating small pulses of illumination that index her progress. In the dim glow, he can almost read her mind. Hurry, hurry, keep moving. He reminds himself he's offering safety, a guiding presence against unseen threats. As they edge into deeper darkness, Sheehan's silhouette looms among the shadows. His watchful eye never wavers. Mia's hand trembles on the locked car door as Paul Sheehan steps forward, flashlight in hand, voice low enough that she almost doesn't hear him. "You sure you don't want an escort?" he asks, each word deliberate. The beam from his torch bobs across her coat, her pack, then settles on her face. She swallows, forcing calm into her voice. "I'm fine, really. Thanks." She tries to slide past him, but he shifts to block her path, arms loose at his sides. The air between them feels charged, as if every molecule is waiting for permission to spark. Paul smiles, too wide, too rehearsed. "It's a courtesy," he says. "We've had reports of prowlers near Lot C. I'm just doing my job." His eyes catch the lamp's stutter, and he angles his body to keep the glow on her while he talks. "You look tense. Long night." Mia grips her keys inside her pocket. Her pulse ricochets in her ears. "Just studying," she says. "I'd rather get home." Her words are polite, but firm, a clear boundary she hopes he'll respect. He steps closer. The beam of light bounces off the badge on his chest, then dips toward her shoulder. An empathetic gesture, he thinks. Studying at this hour can be stressful. "Are you sure you don't want me to stay with you? Just until you reach the gate?" She shakes her head, the fabric of her resolve cracking. "I'll be okay," she repeats, voice tighter now. She takes a step back, keys pressing against her thigh, as if they're the only thing anchoring her. Paul's jaw tightens. The polite veneer slips. "You know, most students would be grateful for a friendly face out here." His words slide from professional concern into subtle accusation. "Makes you wonder why you're in such a hurry." His shoulder brushes hers under the flickering light. Mia stiffens. Heat blooms on her neck. She forces herself to breathe evenly, aware that any sudden move could provoke him. She lifts her chin and meets his gaze. In that instant, she knows she has to get away before he decides courtesy isn't enough. A distant car horn sounds behind her like a starting pistol. She hurries forward, slamming the door shut and pressing the lock. The click echoes. She leans against the glass, watching him through the tinted window, watching him watch her, until her engine roars to life and she drives into the night. Mia's hands tremble as she slips from her car into her apartment, the bolt of each lock clicking like a countdown. Inside, the lights are harsh and unyielding, but she flips all the switches on anyway. Bathroom, hallway, living room, until every corner is illuminated. She presses her back to the front door, breathing shallow, heartbeat pounding against her ribs. Adrenaline crashes through her like an electric current. C'est impossible. By dawn, she's drained, but she forces herself out again. Classes can't wait, and neither can the essays piling up. At the library elevator, she hesitates before pressing the button, glancing over her shoulder as if Paul Sheehan's uniform silhouette might materialize behind her. The doors open on a quiet car. She steps in, presses the ground floor indicator, and tries to steady her breath. Later, she gathers her textbooks from a second checkout stall farther from the entrance, hoping to avoid any late-night guard shifts carried over to the morning. Through the plate glass window, she sees a familiar patrol car parked near Lot C. She holds her breath as Sheehan steps out, flashlight dangling from his grip. His posture is casual, too casual, and their eyes lock for a flicker of recognition. She ducks back around the corner. In the stacks, she crouches behind a row of philosophy tomes, pressing her palm against cold metal shelves. Her pulse ricochets in her ears. He doesn't move toward her, but he doesn't leave either. He tilts his head, scanning the aisles as if he knows she's here. She imagines the beam swinging past her hiding spot, finding her with a harsh spotlight. When the intercom finally rings for closing time, Relief and dread flood her at once. She gathers her things in a shaky rush and hurries down the hall, each footstep echoing. Sheehan's patrol car idles outside. Mia forces herself to walk straight to the exit, jamming the library doors open into the cold morning. Her reflection in the glass is pale, eyes wide. She's escaped again, for now, but the night's events have woven themselves into her every step, and she knows the tension is only tightening. High above the parking lot, a figure perches on the edge of the science building's rooftop, hood drawn low against the chill. From this vantage, the entire courtyard lies spread out below in harsh pools of sodium vapor and deep ink-black shadows. He's watched the path Mia Caldwell takes dozens of times tonight, from the library doors, across cracked pavement, toward the lone sedan under the flickering lamp. He's watched the guard emerge, too, stepping into her path with that practiced air of authority. The observer's eyes never leave the scene as Sheehan's broad frame looms over Mia, his flashlight beam jabbing her like an accusatory finger. He notes the way the guard's shoulders tighten each time she tries to pass, the slight curl of the lip when she refuses his offer. Every shift in posture, every inhale that turns to a nervous exhale, he records them like frames of surveillance. He knows how fast panic can spiral when fear takes hold, how close someone can come to losing control under a uniform and a badge. A gust of wind tugs at his coat, and he slips back a foot to avoid a loose section of rooftop masonry. He's been tracking anomalies on this campus all week. Misplaced security reports, the guards' inexplicable late-night patrols, students too afraid to speak up. Tonight, the pieces have fallen into place. He sees the tension crackling between them, poised to snap like a barbed wire drawn too tight. He shifts his weight, considering how to descend without drawing attention. The gutter offers a narrow pathway down. The fire escape, a noisier option but closer to the guard's blind spot. He can almost feel the adrenaline coiling in his own veins, the familiar thrill of closing in on a threat. But he stays unmoving a heartbeat longer, letting Sheehan's aggression mount, cataloging each moment, so that when he does move, he will know exactly where to land that opening blow. A distant horn from the parking gate resonates through the courtyard, masking the faint click of his boot on metal. From here, Mia looks smaller, fragile, just another student caught off guard by someone sworn to protect her. With quiet purpose, he steps toward the fire escape, his silhouette dissolving into the night as he prepares to become more than an observer. Mia's breath hitches as she rounds the corner toward her car, textbooks clutched at her side. The lot is empty, save for Sheehan's patrol vehicle idling by the fence. She grips her keys like a lifeline and steps off the curb, but he's there before she reaches the asphalt, cutting off her path with a casual swagger. "Not so fast," he says, voice low and suddenly personal. He lets his flashlight dangle from one hand while the other snakes out and clamps around her wrist. Pain blooms where his grip tightens, and Mia stumbles sideways. "Just making sure you're safe," he adds, though his tone has shifted from concern to possessive. "Let go," she manages, voice trembling but fierce. She twists her arm free, only for him to catch it again, harder this time. The faint hum of distant traffic feels miles away. Her pulse pounds in her temples as she searches for escape, heels scrabbling against gravel. He leans in, heat from his body close enough to scorch her cheek. "You're always in such a hurry," he murmurs, eyes boring into hers. "Doesn't anyone ever stay and talk?" Mia chest tightens. Every survival drill she's ever learned flashes through her mind. Stay calm, keep your wits, find your moment. She tries to wrench free, but his grip is iron. Panic claws at her throat, and she opens her mouth in a silent cry that becomes a strangled sob. Under the flickering lamp, Sheehan's shadow stretches over her, dark and oppressive. For a moment, Mia feels herself slipping toward despair, trapped by someone sworn to protect. Then, as if summoned by her terror, a sound, soft and deliberate, echoes behind Sheehan, the click of boots against pavement. The guard's head snaps back, His eyes search the darkness beyond Mia's shoulder. In that heartbeat, Mia's fear sharpens into hope. Someone else is here. Someone watching. And the boundary he just violated is about to be challenged. Mia's sob is cut off as a blur of movement materializes behind Sheehan. Without a sound, the stranger's forearm sweeps across the guard's jaw in a strike so precise it seems choreographed. Sheehan staggers, head snapping back, before he can even register the blow. In the same motion, the newcomer drops low, wraps his arm around Sheehan's neck, and drives him face down onto the cold asphalt. The impact resonates through Mia's chest like a drumbeat. The man doesn't hesitate. He pins the guard's shoulder to the ground with a swift knee, his other hand pressing firmly over Sheehan's mouth to stifle any protest. Only the faint scrape of fabric and the guard's ragged breath break the heavy silence. Under the lamp's flicker, Mia sees a face set in calm focus, eyes surveying the guard's limbs as if reading lines of danger. Mia exhales, relief flooding her bones. The shock in her veins loosens, and she steps forward, voice caught in her throat. The stranger raises a finger in warning, palm out, urging her to stay back. His presence is solid, vast, a protective wall made flesh. Behind them, Sheehan's limbs thrash briefly before ceasing, his strength drained by shock or skillful restraint. Mia can't tell which. He kneels, releases his grip enough to cuff Sheehan's wrist behind his back with a set of handcuffs clipped to his belt. The guard's head lolls to the side, eyes unfocused. Mia's fingers tremble as she approaches, the distant hum of the campus gate fading beneath her pounding heart. The stranger rises fluidly, towering in the dim light. He turns to Mia, offering a steady hand and a brief nod. Their eyes meet, and she feels understanding and gratitude pass between them wordlessly. Then he steps back into the shadows. Mia hears the soft click of boots on metal, but sees only darkness where he stood. She exhales a breath she didn't know she held, kneels beside the stunned guard, and fumbles for her phone. In the sudden quiet, she realizes the night has changed forever. Mia's fingers shake as she finally retrieves her phone, thumbs fumbling over the screen before she manages to dial campus security. Her voice cracks with urgency as she whispers the location. Within minutes, though it feels like hours, two uniformed officers emerge under the same flickering lamp. Their flashlights sweep the asphalt and settle on Paul Sheehan, slumped face down and bound in handcuffs that don't match their own. "Step back," one officer orders, covering his radio mic. Mia obeys, pressing against the cold hood of her car as the officers fan out. They check Sheehan's pulse, flip him onto his back, and call for medical backup. Blood trickles at the corner of his mouth, and his eyes flutter open to confusion, not pain. "Did you do this?" One guard asks Mia, nodding toward the still empty shadows beyond the lampost's glow. She opens her mouth, but no name comes. All she can manage is, "He was going to hurt me." Someone stopped him. The officers exchange glances, puzzled. One kneels to inspect the makeshift cuffs, heavy-duty, tactical style, far more secure than standard issue. He taps Mia's arm gently. "You saw who did this?" She shakes her head. She'd barely registered a face, only the precise impact of the blow and the stranger's calm control. He vanished as quietly as he arrived, leaving no trace but the guard's crumpled uniform and a rush of adrenaline in her veins. Sirens wail in the distance, and an ambulance pulls up, paramedics hopping out to tend to Sheehan. Mia steps back, voice steadier now, describing every detail she can remember to the guard taking her statement. Security takes photos, collects footprints in the loose gravel, and tags the area as a crime scene. When it's done, an officer escorts Mia to her car, flashlight beam bobbing at her side. "You're safe now," he says. But Mia knows better. That night changed everything. She sits behind the wheel, hands still trembling, and glances up at the empty rooftop edge of the science building. No hero emerges to take a bow. No words are needed. The campus feels different now, charged with possibility and the echo of someone who watches from the shadows, ready to intervene when lines are crossed. Mia walks the campus the next evening with purpose, retracing her steps beneath the same flickering lamps. Her phone's flashlight traces pools of light and shadow as she moved from the library door to the edge of the rooftop fire escape. Every creak of metal sends her heart racing. She wants to thank him, the silent guardian who appeared without warning, who felled Sheehan with a single strike and vanished before she could speak his name. She pauses by the patrol car's usual spot, now empty and dusted with fresh dew. Her breath clouds in the chill air as she circles the pavement, eyes scanning rooftops and ledges. She thinks of the calm precision in his movements. The way he observed first, struck only when the moment was perfect, then slipped away like smoke. Someone who moves without leaving footprints, or so it seemed. A night custodian emerges from a side door, carrying a stack of mops and buckets. Mia approaches him hesitantly and asks if he's seen anyone unusual up top. The custodian shakes his head, glancing skyward. "I only hear the rats up there," he says with a nervous laugh. "Nothing man-sized." Mia nods, hiding her disappointment. At the base of the science building, she finds scuff marks where metal met concrete. A faint, telling curve, too familiar to mistake. She kneels, running a gloved hand over the scratch, imagining the weight of the boots that made it. Proof that he was there, proof he might return. She spends the next hour moving through deserted halls, footsteps echoing like a heartbeat. In a librarian's office, taped to a bulletin board, she spots a lost and found flyer for a single tactical glove found near Lot C. She lifts it carefully, fingers tracing the reinforced stitching. She imagines slipping it on, feeling that same unwavering control. By midnight, exhaustion tugs at her. She stands under the lone lamp, staring up at the dark windows. A distant breeze stirs a loose window pane, a breath against the night. Mia exhales and tucks the glove into her coat pocket. Silence answers her thanks. Though she may never see him again, she carries proof of his presence, and with it, a fierce gratitude that brightens even the darkest corner of the campus. Paul Sheehan settles into the worn swivel chair behind the security desk, fluorescent lights flickering overhead. He opens the incident report form on his laptop and lets his fingers hover over the keyboard, recalling the tension of the lot, Mia's frantic eyes, and that ominous silhouette that intervened. He reshapes the story in his mind, puts himself firmly on the receiving end of a student's panicked attack rather than the perpetrator of a late-night harassment. With precise language, he writes that while escorting a female student to her vehicle, he was surprised by aggressive behavior, describing Mia's trembling grip on his arm as if she were the one in pursuit. He omits his bruised wrist and the desperate tension he felt when she tried to flee. He slips into professional jargon, possible mental distress, unwarranted physical resistance, and concludes that the student may have been disoriented after late-night study. He signs off with his badge number and clicks submit, nodding to himself. Covering all bases, he murmurs. Across campus, the head of security, Lieutenant Ramirez, reads Sheehan's report the next morning. Ramirez frowns, noting the absence of any mention of blows delivered by an unknown guardian or evidence of threat. She picks up her phone, dials the library desk, and learns Mia already filed her own statement. With no cameras in the lot and conflicting accounts, Ramirez sighs and files both statements under unsubstantiated. Without hard proof, policy dictates closure. Later, Sheehan watches Ramirez set the file aside and mutter, "Too bad there's no witness." He forces a polite nod before slipping out for his next patrol. In the hush of the empty office, the report sits dormant in a database, sanitized and unfinished. A record that remembers everything except the silent savior who changed the night. Jack Reacher leaned back in the stiff chair of a roadside cafe, sipping bitter black coffee as he scanned the morning headlines on his phone. A short item about a late-night security scare at the local university caught his eye. Student claims harassment, guard counters with own report, the headline read. Something about the mismatch between the student's fear and the guard's narrative nagged at him. He'd seen that before. Official statements that left too many unanswered questions. He finished his coffee and walked to the campus perimeter, following a hunch rather than a plan. The gates stood open in daylight, students filing through without a second glance at the empty lot beyond. Reacher slipped past the sign warning of after-hours patrols and crossed the cracked asphalt of Lot C, where a single lamppost stood like a sentinel. He studied the flicker of its bulb, imagining how it would look at 2 a.m. when the shadows pressed in. Inside the security office, Reacher introduced himself as a concerned alum exploring safety concerns. The lieutenant on duty, Ramirez, glanced at him warily, but allowed him to review sanitized incident files. Reacher noted the absence of any mention of incoming blows, of a fallen guard, of the silent savior Mia had described. He compared timestamps in the log. The guard's report filed 45 minutes after the student's statement, long enough for someone to rewrite the story. Reacher's eyes drifted to the bulletin board tangled with missing person flyers and lost key notices. Among them was a single tactical glove, marked Lot C. He held it, felt the reinforced stitching beneath his fingers, and nodded to himself. Whoever had left this behind had moved with purpose. Reacher slipped the glove into his coat and thanked Ramirez for his time. Outside, he mapped out the guard's most recent schedule, tracing Sheehan's patrol routes through campus at odd hours. He flagged dorm corridors, library entrances, the science building where the observer must have watched from above. Reacher's jaw set. He hadn't come looking for trouble, but now that he'd found it, he would follow the trail wherever it led. With the sun at his back and that glove in his pocket, he vanished down the sidewalk, his next move already clear. Reacher settled into a deserted corner of the campus archives, spreading printouts across the mahogany table. He'd requested Sheehan's employment records from 2 previous security firms, and the histories that surfaced were troubling. At Norberg Community College, a formal complaint had been lodged when a freshman reported inappropriate touching during a late-night library escort. The panel dismissed it for lack of witnesses, but internal emails warned supervisors about Sheehan's poor judgment around female students. Next, at Silvergate Mall security, he'd been flagged for lingering too long beside the women's restrooms after closing hours. Store managers recalled him brushing off concerns, insisting he was just checking for trespassers. When a coworker secretly recorded him following a clerk into a back hallway, Sheehan was transferred, not terminated, his file labeled personality conflict, neatly sidestepping any criminal investigation. Reacher tapped through PDFs of HR memos, each more evasive than the last, as if the system itself protected Sheehan's advancement. He noted the pattern. Every time someone spoke up, the paperwork shifted blame onto the victim's misperception. No one asked the right questions. No one pressed for proof. Across from him, a single tactical glove lay splayed like evidence, its reinforced palm stamped Lot C. It reminded him that by the time Mia's call reached campus security, the real story had already been twisted. Reacher closed his eyes and imagined Sheehan, uniform crisp and badge gleaming, his smile practiced and cold. He pictured the guard's hands closing around Mia's wrist and the way the shadows hid Reacher's own approach. He gathered the documents, slipping them into a manila envelope stamped confidential. Outside, the lampposts clicked on one by one, and the campus corridors emptied of students. Reacher knew what came next, confronting Sheehan with this trail of warnings and watching him struggle for a false narrative. He stepped into the night air, the envelope heavy in his hand. Somewhere ahead, the guard made his nightly rounds, unaware that each step was tracked, each misdeed recorded. Reacher's jaw hardened. The past might be buried in euphemisms and erased reports, but now it would become the proof of a predator exposed, ready to be held accountable under every lighted lamppost on campus. Reacher moves silently along the edge of the deserted science building, each footstep muffled against concrete. Ahead, Sheehan's silhouette flickers beneath a broken lantern as he reviews his patrol log. The guard's back is turned, shoulders tense, flashlights beam dancing over empty walkways. Reacher drops into the deeper shadow of an alcove and watches him, a predator confident in his own darkness. With deliberate calm, Reacher steps forward. The echo of his boots is soft but distinct. Sheehan whirls, yanking his flashlight free as its beam snaps toward Reacher's chest. "Who's there?" he demands, voice low and rough. "Your conscience," Reacher answers, voice steady. He stands just beyond the lantern's weak glow, coat collar turned up, the tactical glove peeking from his pocket. You're overdue for a chat. Sheehan hesitates, confusion, then anger etches across his face. He swings the flashlight like a makeshift baton, the beam slicing through the darkness. Reacher doesn't flinch. He lets the guard exhaust himself on empty swings, stepping aside until the beam catches the glove and the scattered files poking from Reacher's jacket. Sheehan blinks, recognition and fear mingling in his eyes. You think you can cover your tracks by spinning stories? Reacher asks. He draws closer, boots crunching on gravel. All those memos, those complaints, you left a trail. His hand unclasps the glove, rolling it in his palm. You don't get to decide who's protected here. Sheehan takes a faltering step back, the flashlight's beam wavering. I was following protocol. Protocol doesn't include harassment, Reacher interrupts. He presses the glove's reinforced stitching beneath the lamp's jaundiced light. And you don't intimidate students under cover of night. The guard bravado drains away. His shoulders slump, the uniform suddenly heavy. He lowers the flashlight, eyes fixed on his own reflection in the lens. Reacher's presence leaves no room for denial. You're done, Reacher says, voice quiet but final. You'll answer for this, every step, every lie. Sheehan's silence fills the corridor. Above them, a window clicks shut. The lamp flickers once more, and Reacher's figure melts back into the shadows, leaving the guard to face the truth he tried so hard to hide. Reacher sits in the dim light of a deserted conference room, the tactical glove resting on the table beside stacks of spreadsheets and surveillance logs. He traces his finger down a timeline of incidents, late-night patrols, anonymous calls reporting suspicious behavior, incomplete internal investigations, and sees the same names and badges repeating. Sheehan isn't acting alone. He's one node in a larger network of security officers who prey on students when the campus falls silent. Every file he opens sharpens the pattern. A guard following a student to her car, an unexplained medical emergency filed in lieu of a formal report, then a transfer to a new campus or downtown mall where the cycle begins again. Emails between supervisors urge discretion, reminding one another that no news is good news, and that complaints should be handled internally. Reacher's jaw tightens as he realizes these aren't accidents or isolated lapses. They're deliberate moves to shield predators. He pulls up a map of the city, marking sites where similar complaints quietly vanished. The dots form a rough arc through neighborhoods near universities, clinics, and late-shift workplaces. Motive is clear. These guards exploit institutional blind spots. No cameras in secluded lots, silent corridors at midnight, an administration eager to avoid scandal. Each piece fits into a calculated strategy to intimidate and disappear without consequence. Reacher picks up the glove and flexes its reinforced palm. Whoever crafted this deliberately left it behind, either as a gauntlet thrown down in challenge or a breadcrumb meant to lead someone like Reacher right here. He files it alongside demand letters found in Sheehan's car and signed notes hinting at payment for discretionary services. He leans back, aware that the ring's profits depend on fear, on the threat of exposure. Students too frightened to speak become invisible victims. Their silence funds the guard's next assignment. Outside, the campus night breeze rattles a window pane. Reacher stands and gathers the evidence, files, glove, surveillance stills, into a single bundle. His next move is clear. Expose the ring's structure, unmask the executive pulling the strings, and give every frightened student the proof they need to reclaim their safety. Motives laid bare, patterns exposed. He walks into the night, determined to dismantle the network from the ground up. Mia finds Reacher standing under the lamppost at the science building's rear entrance, coat collar turned up against the chill. Papers and files lie spread on a low bench beside him. She hesitates, heart hammering, then steps into the wan glow. I want to help, she says, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Reacher doesn't look up at first. He shoves a sheaf of documents into a manila folder and tucks it under his arm. You? Help me, he asks, tone flat. She meets his gaze. I know these grounds. I saw things you didn't. I can warn you when he approaches. Get you inside intel you can't get from reports. Doubt flickers in his eyes, but he doesn't dismiss her outright. Walk me through it, he says after a long pause. She tells him about the back stairwell by the physics lab, the unmonitored hall behind the chemistry wing, the way the guard's patrol light pulses just before he turns the corner. Reacher listens, silent, arms crossed. When she finishes, he nods once. All right, we move at midnight tonight. His voice is quiet, but there's an edge of approval in the decision. Over the next hours, he shows her how to tail Sheehan without being seen, how to stay 3 car lengths back, dial down her footprint, and record conversations on her phone while pretending to check messages. He drills her on silent signals. A raised hand means freeze. A pointed finger toward a rival patrol car means retreat. Mia absorbs every detail, determination sharpening her focus. Before they part, Reacher hesitates, then hands her the tactical glove she found in Lot C. Keep it, he says. Proof you belong in this fight. Mia flexes her fingers inside its reinforced palm, surprised by the weight of responsibility she now bears. When midnight arrives, they slip into the campus shadows together. Reacher's stride long and confident, Mia's steps measured and resolute. For the first time since the night in the lot, she doesn't feel helpless. Side by side in darkness, they become more than predator and prey. They become partners bound by a single purpose: expose the network before anyone else falls victim. Rain pelted the cracked asphalt as Mia's headlights cut through the darkness toward the run-down motel at the edge of town. Reacher sat beside her in silence, eyes narrowed, watching the single street lamp that flickered over peeling paint and rusted railings. Moments earlier, they'd spotted Sheehan's patrol car turning into the gravel driveway, tires crunching as he eased to a stop. Mia exhaled, steadying her grip on the wheel. He's going inside, she murmured, finger pointing to the guard's dark uniform as he ducked through the half-open door. Reacher nodded, and Mia eased the car to a halt behind a derelict van, its windows boarded. They killed the engine, and the world narrowed to the distant drip of rain and the guard's soft footfalls. Reacher crouched low, slipping the tactical glove onto his left hand. Mia clicked open her phone's camera, its glow ghostly in her palm. Together, they crept toward the motel, mud sucking at their shoes. Reacher led the way, following the glint of Sheehan's flashlight beam that bobbed through curtained windows. Each guest room door they passed revealed nothing but flickering television sets and empty beds. At the far end of the corridor, voices drifted through a cracked door, low, urgent. They paused, listening. Reacher slipped an ear to the splintered wood and caught fragments of conversation about assignments and payoffs. Mia's heart hammered. These were the voices of other guards, the network in action. Reacher pressed a finger to his lips. They took position by a stairwell railing, choosing the shadows beneath a broken potted plant. Through the door's gap, Sheehan emerged, followed by a tall figure in a dark hoodie whose posture spoke of command. That must be the ringleader. Mia raised her phone, hands trembling as she captured every detail: badge numbers, hardened faces, the silhouette of the man giving orders. She met Reacher's eye and felt a surge of purpose. They had the proof they needed. As the rain intensified outside, the network's center of power lay exposed before them, and they were ready to strike. Reacher moved like a ghost through the motel lobby, his jeans and leather jacket swapping out the neat conference room attire for a transient silhouette. At the reception desk, he rapped on the worn counter with a loose fist, asking for a single night's stay under the name Gordon Price. The clerk eyed him warily, but Reacher held her gaze steady and slid a crumpled bill across the grain of chipped laminate. She punched numbers into the register and handed him a tarnished key. Upstairs, he paused outside room 214, Sheehan's door, and listened. Voices inside spoke in clipped syllables about new routes and late pickup, confirming the motel as a coordination hub. With careful calm, Reacher pressed a slim bug under the handle and slipped inside, his movements fluid enough to leave no prints. The room's sparse furnishings offered a desk and 2 chairs. Reacher ducked under the desk, securing a small listening device to the underside with magnetic clips. He let the recorder's wires snake toward the power outlet, then extended a lens toward the ledger stacked near a half-empty ashtray. The ledger's pages held service contracts, names of officers rotated through Lot C shifts, and coded references to payments. A sudden knock at the door spiked his pulse. He froze, breathing even, and let a woman's voice inquire about a broken heater. Reacher emerged, feigning irritation, and pointed toward the corridor, downstairs. The woman retreated without a second glance. As he exited, he pocketed a single page from the ledger, proof of transaction dates and amounts. Back in the hallway, he dropped into the stairwell shadows and signaled Mia through the open window. From the parking lot below, she swept the building with her flashlight, then clicked a message to confirm the bug and stolen page were secure. Reacher slipped out the back exit while the ringleader's car idled at the curb. His hand closed around the copied ledger sheet, the night's dark work distilled into cold, undeniable evidence. Every step back to the car echoed with possibility. The network's secrets now ready to be laid bare. Rain-soaked pallets and half-lit crates filled the warehouse's cavernous interior, the only sound the drip of water from the leaky roof. Mia slipped inside beneath her hard hat, uniform tucked under a high-visibility vest, heart pounding like a hammer. She'd volunteered to pose as a late-shift clerk, checking incoming deliveries, bait for Sheehan and whoever else ran this racket. She navigated the stacks toward the rear dock where flashing red and blue from her phone weakened as she signaled Reacher's team outside. Through the slats of a shipping container door, she spotted Sheehan's patrol car idling beyond the yellow safety lines. He emerged, flashlight bobbing, scanning for her. Mia squared her shoulders, pushing a clipboard across the nearest loading table as he approached. "Evening shift starts now," she announced in clear tones, tapping the form. His grin flickered. Recognition or relief, she couldn't tell. He stepped closer, voice low with familiar condescension. "Glad you showed up." Mia nodded, handing him a pen. Every second stretched taut as steel. Behind Sheehan, muted voices echoed from the mezzanine above. She glanced upward to see two guards leaning against a railing, eyes fixed on her and the guard. The trap clicked into place. Sheehan signed the manifest with an overconfident smirk, setting the pen down just as Mia pretended to fumble, letting it fall near her boot. At that cue, the light snapped off, time power cut, and the warehouse plunged into pitch. A single industrial siren wailed, and floodlights outside bathed the loading bay in harsh glare. Sheehan's flashlight spun wildly as boots thundered on concrete. Mia dropped to one knee, reaching under the table for the concealed recorder she'd planted. In the sudden chaos, voices cried out, doors clanged, and Sheehan found himself surrounded. Reacher's silhouette materializing from shadowed aisle, uniformed officers fanning out behind him. He raised his hands, confusion and fear warping his features as Mia rose, voice steady over the siren. "You're recorded every time you abuse that badge." Floodlights illuminated the ledger clutched in Reacher's hand and the phone in Mia's other, evidence glowing in digital playback. The warehouse that had once sheltered predators became their cage. Every exit watched, every lie laid bare. The trap had worked. Now the real confrontation could begin. The siren's wail shook the rafters as floodlights pierced the darkness, throwing Sheehan's uniform into stark relief. He froze behind a stack of pallets, eyes darting between Reacher's advancing form and the circle of officers with weapons drawn. Rain dripped from his shoulders, mingling with sweat as his composure snapped. I didn't do anything wrong," he shouted, voice cracking. His grip tightened on the ledger's Reacher held aloft like evidence. He lunged forward, scattering papers across the wet concrete. Reacher sidestepped, and two officers moved in to seize the guard's arms. Sheehan twisted free, desperation fueling his strength. He shoved one officer, sending him stumbling into a stack of crates. Mia watched from the edge of the light, heart pounding as Sheehan's panic transformed into rage. He backed toward the far wall, booted feet slipping in puddles. "You think you can expose me?" he spat, chest heaving. There are people who will make you disappear. Reacher's eyes flickered, but he held his ground. Start naming names, he said quietly, or you'll spend the rest of your life in a cell. The echo of Reacher's calm voice seemed to hollow out the warehouse around them. Sheehan's jaw worked as he glared, sweat and rain streaking his face. He looked at Mia, then at the scattered pages of the ledger, at the blinking recorder in her hand. The ledger, proof of months of payments. The recorder, proof of every whispered order. His bravado dissolved into terror. Okay, he barked. His shoulders slumped. His name is Carson. Mitchell Carson. He's the one who he organized it. He's on the board of that private firm, Security Tech. He brought me in. The words tumbled out, ragged confessions in the harsh glare. Reacher nodded to the nearest officer, and Sheehan was cuffed, the cold click of metal sealing his fate. Mia exhaled, relief and resolve mingling in her chest. As medics approached to examine the disgraced guard, she looked up at the dripping rafters and realized the tipping point had come, not with fists or threats, but with truth laid bare under unforgiving light. Reacher stepped forward into the harsh glare of the floodlights as a convoy of black SUVs screeched to a halt outside the warehouse doors. Hatchbacks popped open and hulking men in tactical gear poured in, weapons drawn and shouting Carson's name. Mia planted herself by the loading ramp, phone in hand, broadcasting live to arriving patrol cars. Lightning flashed through the broken skylights, painting the scene in stark white and deep shadow. The first wave of Carson's henchmen surged toward Reacher, who met them head-on with a brutal efficiency born of years in combat. His right hook sent one attacker sprawling into a stack of crates. A spinning elbow cut off another's advance. Steel-toed boots hammered wet concrete as Reacher pivoted, using the momentum of each assault to clear a path toward the mezzanine, where Carson barked orders. Mia darted between puddles, shouting directions to the security officers flowing in behind her. She intercepted a thug trying to flank Reacher and jabbed him in the ribs with her flashlight, sending him reeling. Her makeshift tactics, throwing wrenches, pulling down hanging chains, kept the worst of Carson's backup off balance. Above them, Carson leaned over the railing, pistol raised. He fired twice, thin cracks echoing off corrugated metal. Bullets spattered sparks from the concrete floor. Reacher flung himself toward the stairwell, sliding down the railing to cascade through a row of henchmen and emerge under Carson's line of fire. Mia vaulted onto the lower steps, grabbing one of Carson's goons by the collar and slamming him against the post. Reacher dove behind a forklift as another shot shattered its taillight. He rolled out, elbow first, into Carson's path. The two men collided in a tangle of limbs and fury. Carson's suit coat tore as Reacher smashed his shoulder into a support beam. The ringleader's pistol clattered across the floor. Reacher seized it, pressing the barrel against Carson's temple with a look that brooked no argument. Silence fell, broken only by the distant wail of sirens. Mia appeared, chest heaving, as the remaining goons froze and slowly raised their hands. Reacher dropped the gun, cuffing Carson with Sheehan's discarded handcuffs. Racing footsteps and uniformed officers flooded the warehouse, securing every corner. Mia exhaled, heart pounding, and met Reacher's steady gaze. In that moment of calm after the storm, she realized they'd done more than survive. They dismantled a criminal empire forged in darkness. Mia stood in the stark fluorescent glare of the campus security evidence room, watching as Reacher tipped open the battered briefcase and began laying its contents across the steel table. Every piece of paper, every digital file they'd risked so much to seize, was spread out like a mosaic of the network's crimes. The stained ledger pages, rows of dates, names, and payment amounts, made it impossible to dismiss any longer. Beside them, the small recorder clicked through the night's conversations in the motel suite, voices confirming assignments, locations, and instructions to target late-shift students. Reacher plugged the recorder into the playback unit. Mia pressed play, her heart hammering as the first muffled words filled the air. Lot C shift, 2 a.m., a voice intoned. You know what to do. She watched the lieutenant of campus security lean forward, face growing pale as each damning phrase spilled out. She felt a surge of vindication. This was the proof that had eluded her until now. Next came the digital photos Mia had snapped in the warehouse. Sheehan's badge glinting under floodlights. Carson's silhouette barking orders from the mezzanine. Every henchman's face caught in mid-action. They displayed on a flickering monitor, each image a stark indictment. The official from the district attorney's office flipped through printed copies, nodding grimly. "This is more than enough," he said, voice tight with disbelief. "We'll convene a grand jury first thing tomorrow." Mia pulled out her phone and showed the DA the time-stamped metadata, proof that the files couldn't have been forged. Reacher added his own notes, marking where each strand of evidence intersected. Patrol logs contradicted by surveillance feeds, HR memos confessing past cover-ups, the unsigned demand letters recovered from Sheehan's car. Together, they formed an unassailable web. As they packed everything back into chain-of-custody bags, Mia finally allowed herself to breathe. The weight of fear that had shadowed her for weeks lightened, replaced by a fierce clarity. Reacher looked at her, a rare softness in his gaze. "You did this," he said. "You risked everything for the truth." Mia watched the evidence disappear into official hands, knowing that, at last, justice would follow, not just for her, but for every student who'd ever felt unsafe under the cover of night. A hush falls over the packed courtroom as the district attorney strides forward, folder in hand. He lays out Carson's corporate credentials: vice president of security tech, board member overseeing dozens of university contracts. Murmurs ripple through the spectators, students, faculty, parents. Realizing the predator in their midst answered not to duty, but to profit. With a steady click, the prosecutor plays the motel recording. Carson's own voice emerges, calm and commanding. "Make sure she's intimidated, but leave no evidence." The ledger pages follow on the screen, each transaction tied to security tech's payment records. Carson's pale face blanches. His lawyer's eyes dart to the floor. Next, a slideshow of photographs flashes. Carson barking orders from the mezzanine. Sheehan's patrol car idling in rain. Mia's live stream of armed goons charging the warehouse. Each image lands like a hammer blow. The DA's closing words cut through the silence. Mitchell Carson engineered this network of harassment and concealment. Today, we name him for what he is, a criminal exploiting the trust placed in him. Gasps and whispered exclamations fill the room. Mia's chest tightens, then loosens as justice crystallizes in stark relief. Reacher, standing behind her, nods once. The judge's gavel falls, echoing like a victory chant. Outside the courthouse steps, dozens of cameras and microphones crowd around Carson as he's led away in cuffs. Reporters shout questions, but he stares forward, mouth set in a hard line. On the plaza, students clutch signs reading "safety over profit" and "trust broken." Mia watches them, heart swelling with resolve. Later, in an emergency town hall meeting, the university president announces the termination of security tech's contracts and offers counseling and scholarships to every student affected. Applause breaks out, raw and hopeful. Mia steps outside into the afternoon sun. Reacher falls into step beside her, silent but present. She breathes deep, feeling the weight lift from campus air. The ringleader has been exposed, his empire dismantled, and a community once silenced now finds its voice. Mia rises to the witness stand, heart pounding as she surveys the hushed courtroom. Every eye is on her, students she doesn't know, reporters scribbling furiously, and across the room, Reacher's calm profile. She clears her throat and begins, voice steady despite the tremor in her fingers. She describes the autumn night in Lot C, the guard's grip on her wrist, the pulse-quickening fear, and then the blow from the shadows that saved her life. She recounts the hours she spent poring over security logs, retracing footsteps beneath flickering lamps, and the desperate moment she slipped the evidence-laden glove into her pocket. The jurors lean forward as she plays the motel recording, her own voice echoing in the speakers alongside Carson's orders. When she speaks of the warehouse trap, of keys dropping, sirens wailing, and the rush of officers flooding in, her eyes meet each juror in turn.